Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 67 of The Clutch Dump. I'm Nicholas Patty, joined by Ben Walther, and we have arguably the Europe
least important but most interesting thing we've talked about in a long time.
That's not even close to true, because I think this is a turning point for the automotive industry, and I say this in all seriousness, that depending on how this vehicle does, it will define the trajectory for a lot of other automotive brands in the class of vehicle that they end up manufacturing. But before we talk about what that is and what that might look like, make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Clutch Dump, and then make sure to follow us on the podcasting platforms that you might be listening to us on, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcast or otherwise. And then if you're on YouTube, hello. Hopefully this actually makes it to YouTube.
Hi. This one will probably make it.
Well, yeah, I couldn't imagine why the other one didn't. Thank you all for coming by the YouTube, but make sure to subscribe and like the video. We sincerely appreciate it, and it lets us know if we're headed in the right direction. Ben, I'm going to be honest. We can spend the end of the episode with the other stuff. I want to
We're just going straight into it?
I want to sink our teeth into the meat of this week, which this announcement has taken the world by storm. This vehicle has taken...
It's probably one of the most unexpected vehicles released in a very long time.
Yes, and I'll say this. I have incredible amounts of respect for the fact that this car exists.
Oh, yeah.
But, God, do I just...
Not want it to be...
No. The hatred I have, though, for the Ford keyboard warriors.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Ford started with a 428 Cobra Jet. This is another instance in which I'm like, shut up, stop talking. Shut up.
This has nothing to do with Ford history or anything like that.
The only reason this is good is because it's hardly American.
It's North American.
Nothing about this is American other than the fact that it has a V8. Like, that is about it.
True. So, by the way, if you haven't catched on, we're talking about the new Mustang GTD, which Ford debuted at Monterey Car Week at actually at one of Jim Farley's personal garages. Yeah, cool. Rich people. But it was leaked. We saw images of it about the day before, maybe 2 days before.
It came out officially yesterday. By the time this airs, it'll be 2 days ago. And we saw leaked images like 4 days ago. Right,
so it was leaked, quite close to the debut, and the leaked images were of the car on the stand. It wasn't like spy shots or camouflage photos or anything.
Just like, hey, setting up for the new debut. Here's the
and then someone a janitor clipped a picture of the car with no cover on it. There will be pictures up on the screen. There will be plenty of pictures of this car up on the screen. Nick, can I go through some specs and nerd out a bit before we talk about this car's purpose? So this car is a massive shock to not only the automotive industry, but kind of American car fans. Americans don't do this. We don't do, we occasionally...
Correct.
Right. So on the surface, it's very easy for people to go, oh, it's like a C7 ZR1 type thing. They just replaced it with carbon and threw a wing on it. It's not like that. It's much different.
Although, it would be interesting to know how it would stack up against a C7 ZR1.
I'm actually very, and that is the good thing that we'll get to in a bit about the Nürburgring lap times. That's why that is such a good metric, while entirely irrelevant to 98% of the planet, is very interesting statistic just to note.
I love how you think that there's a full 2% of the global population that finds it useful.
99.8% of the planet doesn't find this interesting or relevant, but it's a good metric, and we do have times for everything before this, so it'll be very interesting to see. But based on the S650, loosely based on the S650 road car platform, it has a all-carbon body. The only body panel that it carries over from the factory, the standard Dark Horse car, is the doors. Those are not carbon. Those are aluminum. The car has a 4-inch wider track width than a GT dark horse.
Which you can just tell.
Which you could just tell looking at the car. The car is crazy wide, as if Mustangs weren't big enough already. It is getting a version of the 5.2-liter supercharged V8 from the S550 GT500, except it's supposed to make at least 800 horsepower, whereas the 500 was making 750, I think. And probably one of the biggest news is it is getting an 8-speed dual-clutch transaxle. So if you don't know what that means, standard front engine car, there's an engine, and then right behind it, bolted to it, is a transmission and then a drive shaft that runs to the rear differential of the car. Transaxle, like a Corvette from 98 newer, or a 944, or an Alfa GTV if you're Italian and weird, is motor in the front, drive shaft in the middle, torque tube, technically, and then a transmission at the rear bolted straight to the differential. So this helps with weight distribution. Supposedly this car has a near 50-50 weight distribution, which is really good considering a standard S650 Dark Horse, I think, is like 55-45, something like that. They're pretty nose heavy. So to get this 50-50 is really good, and as we'll talk about in a bit, is important for this car's goal. So it's an 8-speed dual clutch, and if you're wondering if that's the GT500 trans, it's not. That was a 7-speed dual clutch.
The GT500 was a dual clutch, though.
It was a dual clutch, which was a first for Ford, but that was a 7-speed dual clutch. This is an 8-speed. The transaxle is built by Tremec. So I'm actually assuming that this is a version of the Tremec. It's, if you want to be real nerdy, a TR9080, which is the 8-speed dual-clutch transaxle in a C8 Corvette. I'm assuming that this is a version of that. They loosely based the architecture off of it. Obviously, it'd have to change because it's normally bolted to an engine, whereas this is bolted to a torque tube. And nerdy bit, the paddle shifters are made of recycled titanium from a Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. Why? Because they can be. The car has active aero, it has hydraulically activated DRS, and it has an active underbody. So full flat floor car, but it's got flaps underneath it like an SF90 or a LaFerrari that can direct the air through the splitter or towards the rear diffuser. The suspension is where this car is really impressive for an American muscle car. So it has Multimatic's active spool valve dampers, or ASV technology. So Multimatic is essentially where this car was built and designed. It was kind of a skunk work.
If it is faster than a GT3 RS, it was only built by the people that built...
Who built the 963.
Yeah, so really it is a Porsche, actually.
It is. It's not. But it was... So it was built with Multimatic. If you're wondering, the Multimatic Ford partnership, Multimatic helped Ford run their GTD, their Daytona prototype program a few years ago.
And Multimatic also built the suspension for the
Ford
GT.
5th Gen Z28, and they essentially built the Ford GT, the newest version of it. It has dual wishbone front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension, which will sound familiar in a bit. In the rear, it does have a cantilever pushrod system. The coilovers, the ASV dampers are actually mounted in the trunk of the car, and apparently if you're in the driver's seat and look in the rearview mirror, you can see them from the driver's seat, which is just super interesting and nerdy. The car gets magnesium wheels standard, not carbon wheels because it is a track car and carbon wheels like to explode. But it does have a 325 width front tire, which is the same as the rear width on a Ford GT. And it has a 345 millimeter rear tire. Comes standard with a titanium Akrapovic exhaust. I think I saw 17.5 inch diameter carbon ceramic brakes, which are huge. So the project began in 2021. Apparently this started about 6 months after the S650 GT3 program started. And then Jim Farley went, hey, we should build a road car version of those. So they did.
You know what's funny? I'm sitting here thinking about it. So we're about to segue into a conversation about a GT3 RS compared to this car, right?
Yep.
And I think the GT3 RS is the car to beat. However, I just sat here and realized it was not that long ago that the GT3 RS was a competitor for like the ZR1 or the Z06, but the ZR1 and the Z06 seems like child's play compared to this Mustang.
Right.
So, now granted, the C8 Z06 is putting up horsepower numbers over 700.
Right.
But when you talk about the level of engineering that went into it, it's not even on the same stratosphere as
Right.
these cars. But then I had to remind myself, we haven't seen the C8 ZR1.
Right, so there's going to be a ZR1, and then there's also going to be what's called a Zora, which apparently is going to be an all-wheel drive hybrid version of the ZR1. So that's supposed to be like
E-Ray ZR1.
It's supposed to be some like 1,000 horsepower, all-wheel drive, active torque vectoring, active aero, crazy. So this is the cool part about this.
And then once that comes out, it's going to be a GT2 RS.
It's going to be GT2 RS, and then we'll get probably a mid-engine Mustang at that point. I don't know.
And then the GT1 comes back for Porsche.
And then they build the new electric hypercar thing, and the cycle starts again. But companies are building track-oriented cars, and not in the way that like a 997 GT3 RS is track-oriented.
They're called homologation specials.
Something like, except we don't need to homologate them. They're just building them because they can.
But we'll take it.
But we'll take it anyway. I just think it's so cool that, we're getting this kind of, hopefully not, but what's being treated as kind of a last hurrah for the internal combustion engine. And they were like, race cars? Yeah, no, we'll just actually build race cars. And not a Dodge Demon, which is a drag car. Like, this is a GT car for the road. It actually makes more downforce and more horsepower than the GT3 Mustang.
So, speaking of demons, you know what's scary about driving a Dodge Demon is...
Oh, yes, you drove one. How is that?
So, when you put it in drive,
you
just lift off the brake, right? You just have it in gear. It does 25 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, 810 horsepower will do that.
Yeah, it kind of caught me off guard. Secondly, full tank of fuel. 80 miles range.
Yep, checks out.
Getting in the Hellcat Red Eye was no better. That was 95 miles of range.
I'll say, I've driven a Red Eye. I have not driven a Demon before. Actually, the only Hellcat product I've driven is a Red Eye.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me.
Yeah.
They're just the underside of that car is not equivalent to what's underneath the hood of that car, so they're kind of terrifying to drive quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So anyway, back to cars that are equally as terrifying to drive, but because they're so
in a good way,
beautifully on the limit, that you might shit a brick.
Yeah, so this car is so off the rails for something that Ford normally does. Yes, they did the GT, and then they did the GT Mark II, but
and the GT Mark IV that was testing at Sebring. Yes,
the Mark IV that was testing, which looks super sick. I forget that car exists until they posted about it. But, to do something like this is nuts. And supposedly it's not going to be super limited numbers. Like, I saw somewhere that they're going to build 2,000 or 3,000 of these things. Like, there's going to be a lot of them.
Do they make? They make over 1,000, don't they?
I don't think RSs are I don't think they put
RSs
a number on
limited,
RSs.
But how many do they make?
I think they make a couple thousand a year.
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, it's
they're not limited, but they're kind of picky on who they give allocate.
Right.
They do a set number of allocations.
Right.
And then they'll build as many as they can sell, but not as many
more.
Right. So they make a lot of 3RSs, and I don't expect this to become part of the model lineup like the 3RSs. Every time we get a new 911 now, we're like, cool, so we have the Carrera, and then we're going to get the Turbo, and then we're going to get the Turbo Cab, and then the GT3, and then in a year we'll get a 3RS.
Although, because the Shelby moniker is gone, the Dark Horse R could be the GT350 equivalent, and this might be Ford's equivalent to the GT500. Obviously, it's not equal, but Ford's saying we're not going to go for the horsepower drag race Dodge play. We're going for track capability.
We don't have to compete with Dodge now. The only other people we have to compete with are Porsche, Aston, and AMG.
I think it's actually going to become part of the lineup, at least for the S650 iterations, because if they're doing the GT3 program, in the foreseeable future, as long as that's happening, I'm sure they'll have a model lineup for it.
Yeah, and they'll probably do updated versions of it.
Right.
Like it'll get more power and shift faster and lighter weight and stuff. It'll get more dumb.
Hey, Nissan, by the way, this is how you make a sport trim level, just so you know.
Well, you add lightness. In the words of Lotus, complicate and add lightness, which is what this is.
Simplify.
I know, but this car's complicated, so they complicated.
Right.
Sorry, that was it. Yes, Lotus, Colin Chapman, simplify and add lightness, but cars aren't simplified anymore to make them faster. We complicate them, but we add lightness. Speaking of lightness, Nick, I have a document here that I think I shared with you.
I've already looked through it. Yes.
You've already looked through it. And it's got some comparisons here between a GT3 RS and the Mustang GTD. Now, if you're listening on audio and you haven't seen pictures of this car, the reason why it's being compared to the GT3 RS is Ford said that they are aiming for a sub 7-minute Nürburgring lap time.
Daddy Farley literally said this is for everybody else to take note of, and it's like, what has been the only car in the world that has been the quote-unquote race car on the road? Not a hypercar, not a supercar, but a race car for the road. And so, yeah.
So it's the comparison that most people are making are GT3 RS to GTD because it has active aero and a big wing on it, and the front fenders are obviously designed similar. I can almost guarantee that there is a building somewhere owned by Ford with two 992 GT3 RS in it. One fully disassembled, one that has been beat within an inch of its life on a track.
Yep.
There are two somewhere, and then they were just comparing it to this car. So, and to be fair, we're going to have a conversation.
They're like this. God damn it, Bobby, I told you not to wreck the damn thing. We only got 2 of them. Horse won't let us get no more of them. We got to compare it to Mustang GTD, you understand? All right.
That's how they sound in Canada. But I've got some comparisons here. So, by the way, GT3 RS around the Nordschleife did a 6-minute 49.3. So, not just sub 7-minute, pretty far down there. I think the only two, quote, normal is in quotations for audio people, normal supercars to go faster than that are AMG Black Series and Aventador SVJ.
And GT2 RS MR.
Oh, the Manti racing car, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I just want people to understand. The GT3 RS is within a minute of the 9:56 Stellan Beloff time.
Yeah, it's that is a crazy fast car.
We're talking a 911 is around 13 miles, not even a minute, less than 50 seconds from a ground effects Group C consecutive Le Mans winning 956.
Yep, stupid fast. By today's standards, stupid fast. By the way, this all revolves around a conversation Nick and I have all the time. Road cars are getting too fast. Anyway, we're going to be thankful for the time being. So, wait. I think this is actually where this conversation is going to get really interesting because weight is one of the figures we haven't seen for the GTD. But we do have a weight figure for the 3RS, and it is a featherweight 3,268 pounds.
Mike Heyman's lighter.
Now, something to note with the GTD. Now, it's S650 based, and an S650 from the factory is almost 4,000 pounds.
Right.
They are heavy cars. Now, it's going to be lighter because carbon fiber and no back seats. And less sound deadening and that sort of stuff. So
Magnesium
wheels, titanium everywhere. So it's going to be lighter there, but it's got a blower on it and a dry sump kit, which adds complex. So, I don't know. I put 3,800 pounds estimate.
I think it's going to be between 35 and 37.
I'm hoping it's a bit lighter than that, but I don't know. I'm assuming yes. I'm assuming it will be lighter than that, but conservatively 3,800 pounds. In the GT3 RS is a 4-liter naturally aspirated flat 6, which that motor, for some reason, makes 518 horsepower at 8,500 RPM.
Oh, God.
Dude, it makes no... So I actually did some reading into that motor, and there's a lot of things that happen in that motor that don't make sense in street cars, and it's super interesting, but we're not going to go into that right now, because that's not what this is about. Because in the GTD, it has that 5.2-liter supercharged V8, which makes 800 horsepower at 7,500 RPM. It said it'll rev past that, but peak power is 7,500 RPM. Torque-wise, the 3RS makes 343 pound-feet, but that's because in a high-revving motor, they're going to do that. And then the GTD, I put 650 pound-feet. We don't have an official torque figure, but that is the torque figure for a GT500, so it'll make at least that. Now, downforce. This is super important because 911s are actually not that great to make downforce in. if you actually start talking about underbody, because there's a motor in the back, so you can't have a crazy diffuser on them. So a lot has to happen with overbody, and that's why they have the active stuff to do some trickery around that. That's why the RSR was mid-engine. But a 992 3RS makes 1,895 pounds of downforce at 177 miles an hour. The GTD we have no figures on. I don't know. I'm assuming it will be somewhere similar to that.
I think it's going to be less.
I think it might be less, and it's going to make up for it in 800 horsepower.
Right. No, I agree. But I'm going to explain for the listener or the viewer, here's why I think it's going to be less. While the GT3 RS suffers from being rear-engined, and so that affects your underbody, what it does allow you to do is just waste the entire front end on downforce trickery.
Right.
The Mustang does not have that luxury.
Front engine, so you can't do that.
So the Mustang has little to no ability through the front of the car to channel air and create downforce. The GT3 has been hollowed out, and it is just tunnels and tubes and canals and louvers. And...
Right. And I mean, and here's another thing, though, is Porsche designed the 992 knowing that they were going to build a 3RS.
Right.
They knew they were going to. As a matter of fact, they knew they were going to build a 2RS, probably, even though Andy Preuninger said they weren't going to build one. But he's a liar. They're going to build one. We've seen a car testing with a bigger wing. We know it exists.
Yeah, he's a liar because he also said the ST would not be fun around a track. And I'm like, I don't know what your definition of fun is. I don't know about that, dude. But that's, it's not fun. I don't know. Not as fast as a GT3, probably, but it'll definitely be fun. Yeah.
So we don't have downforce figures. So multiple things, like Nick said. If you look at a standard Carrera 992 versus a standard S650 Mustang, the 992, I don't actually know the numbers, but I'm assuming the 992 has a better drag coefficient than an S650.
Right? It would have to.
It would make sense that it does. Just a 911 from the factory is a sportier car than a Mustang. Sorry, Mustang people. Truth hurts.
No, not sorry. Get fucked.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, pretty much. So Ford is kind of already on the back foot, which is their own fault. That's fine. But they're kind of on the back foot going into this whole track battle thing of
what
the
happens
car.
When you put an engine in the front.
Yes, don't do that, Ford. Don't build cheap cars. So downforce figures, we don't know, but I would be shocked if it's more than 2,000 pounds of downforce, because that's crazy
do you really
numbers.
Think it's going to be more than the GT3 RS?
No, I'm expecting around 1,500, 1,600 pounds of downforce is what I'm expecting. But
here's the
what
thing. Ford would have announced that, and they would have announced the weight if it was good. Like, here they are announcing all this sick, wicked stuff. Jim Farley's like, we're taking it to these guys, and it's like, yeah, but muscle cars are always heavy. How much does it weigh? And then, also, by the way, how much downforce does it make, considering its main rival makes, like, a 747's amount of downforce.
Makes more downforce than a GT3R.
Yeah, and they just didn't say.
So it's crazy numbers. I mean, I probably could have looked up. Well, no, they haven't released how much downforce the Mustang GT3 makes because no one has one yet. I was going to say I could look up that number and then just use that, but we don't have that. And then tire size, I think, is going to be a huge factor in this, especially if you look at front tires. Now, you can't run a huge front tire on a GT3 if you're not running a ton of front aero on it, because the car will just understeer, because there's no weight on the front of a GT3 RS, or on the front of a 911 in general. So they have a 275/35 ZR20 on the front of there, and they are running a Michelin Cup 2R. And the GTD, like I said, is that 325/3020, also Cup 2R. In the rear, the GT3 RS has a 335 to the Mustang's 345. So the Mustang's got it on tires, but the GT3 has it probably on weight and downforce. So we have weight and downforce versus tire and horsepower.
Almost as if that's the age-old battle.
Almost as if that is every European car versus every American car.
So, Ben, without
Nick,
shock value to me and trying to just drive me up the walls of this room, if somebody asked you to place money on which car was going to have a faster time, which one would you actually say you think, with what you know, is going to be faster? And a factor of that is Porsche has, I think, better drivers at their disposal. Seriously, so
Ford does have better drivers at their disposal. The GTD was developed by Harry Tinknell, who is a multi-time Le Mans winner, and Joey Hand, who is a multiple-time 24-hour Daytona winner and 12-hour Sebring winner. So they had good drivers developing it, but like in all honesty, you could have grabbed any sports car driver, and they would have been able to develop that car. Any successful GT driver, and they would have been able to develop that car. I do think though that, I mean, I don't know. Is it going to do a sub 7-minute lap time? Of course it is, because they wouldn't have announced that if they didn't know that it was going to. It'll be sub 7 minutes, but the question is it going to be 6:59 or is it going to be 6:45? I don't know at that point. I think the Mustang will be faster.
I love the ASMR.
Okay, so okay. This could be Jim Farley being Jim Farley, but he threw around some big names at this when he was talking about companies he's putting on notice. AMG, Aston Martin, and Porsche. Now, Aston Martin's only mentioned because they build front-engine transaxle cars. That's why they're mentioned, which makes me curious to think if in the future all Mustangs will become transaxle. But that's a different discussion. I don't think that it will be faster than the AMG Black Series. I don't think it will be, and it certainly won't be faster than an SVJ. But I think it will be, if not faster than GT3 RS, very close. But I think it will be. I think they threw out such big claims, and it has so many design cues from a GT3 RS. They reverse engineered the bananas out of that GT3 RS.
Here's the thing. I don't know if this is arrogance vicariously.
It is, but go ahead.
The fucking Germans, and the Porsche engineers in particular, if there was mathematically a way to make the 992 faster, it would have already been faster in a naturally aspirated form.
Right.
I don't think it is possible to make a NA 911 go faster than what
and still be a street car.
I have
be a half decent street car.
I have so much confidence in the fact that there's nothing left in not just physically like, oh, this is all physical, but physically, scientifically, in the universe that it's possible. Like, they just engineer everything. They think of everything all the time. Like, they just, and this is, bring it full circle, kind of what I wanted to point out in this conversation for cars in general. Nobody in the car community was sitting around going, you know what we need? Well, let me back up. You had two camps. You have the 70 to 150 grand sports cars.
Right. Your Corvettes, your 911s, that stuff.
You have supercars, but lately supercars aren't much of anything anymore. They're really like on the border of hypercar.
Pretty drag cars. Kind of, almost.
Well, yeah, but meaning like
some of them.
It's like a car that's 400 grand and it
makes 1,000 horsepower.
Right. And it's like, okay, like it's not a hypercar technically, but it's not a Huracan. So
right, your SF90s, your Revueltos, that sort of stuff.
And now you have your bespoke 1,000 horsepower and up, $1 million and up, just stupid money. Who has
Valkyrie, Project One, Valor, that stuff.
But I think Porsche has proven globally that there is an ability to have shades of gray of a lineup, and each of those shades be different enough that there's a reason to buy one over the other, but they're close enough that you're not spending 60, 100, 200, 300 from, you know, for Ford, you could argue it's, okay, well, I could have a base V8 Mustang, for 50, but then I could go to a 300 grand GTD. That's quite a range. There's not.
I mean, like I think if you fully option out a dark horse, I think you might be able to get one to 80 if you get like the magnesium wheels and the carbon roof.
Sure. Like, so, but Porsche's
it's a huge jump.
Hey, a race car for the street in the GT3 RS, which obviously they've known the GT3 RS for a while now.
Right.
But the GT3 RS has never had a car that was designed for the same reason. It's had cars that were similarly fast, but it was coincidental. So Corvette Z06 or the ZR1 was similar speed, and they were always matched up against each other.
Viper ACR.
But when the Viper ACR, the ZR1 was designed, it was never with the same philosophy. It was just slam a bigger engine in it, put a bigger wing on it.
Right.
And that was basically it. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying that.
Yes.
So this is the first real car that was engineered for this with the same exact thought process.
Yep.
We're going to make it lighter. We're going to make it stiffer. We're going to make it a race car for the street and not a race car because it has a shit ton more power, although they did do that.
They did do that.
It's going to have all of the technology, all of the dampers, all of the carbon, all of the everything that our race cars have, but for the street, excuse me. And I do think the GTD is actually more extreme than the GT3 RS.
Absolutely. I definitely think it is.
I do sit here, though, and this is when I come back to, and I know I'm biased, but I come back to the fact I'm like, yes, but it's Porsche. Like, I'll tell you what. I get that people have affinities for their brands. Like, don't get me wrong. Shelby's diehard Chevy. Baller. Like, no disrespect. People are diehard Ford. Whatever. Good for you. But Porsche's the only brand that would have diehard fans of the other manufacturers going like, it's Porsche, though. Like, I've never sat here and been like, oh, dude, it's Chevy, though. Like, I don't know. No.
Right.
I'm like, they have to do the work to prove that they're Porsche. Porsche is the benchmark. And that's why I'm like, even though the Ford should be able to do it, I'm like, but Porsche. And then I sit there and I think to myself, yeah, but GT2 RS. Like, this is Ford's tour de force. This is everything we have. Here it is.
Right.
And Porsche's like, we still have the GT2 RS.
This is naturally aspirated.
Yeah.
We're just going to put turbos on it and make it faster.
Oh, boost? Oh, we're allowed to do that? Oh, well.
Yeah.
But I digress.
So I think everything you said about this is correct. And that is the one thing that has me, okay, like, is it going to be faster than the ZR1 around the track?
Yes.
Of course it is. Without question, it's going to be faster. Just look at it.
I'm almost embarrassed for Chevy because I feel like I'm not going to lie, I feel like they've been caught sleeping. Like, they were sitting here thinking, mid-engine Corvette.
Totally good. It'll distract everyone from the fact that the Camaro isn't here. It'll be great.
And literally, it's like, Chevy, where are you? Like, Ford has just been like, bam, 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 bam. And Porsche has been...
What was the last interesting thing that Chevy made?
It was
like
the Z06.
I mean, it was, well, I mean, like, before the mid-engine Corvette. Were they doing anything revolutionary or interesting?
Not revolutionary, really. But I do think the C7 ZR1 is one of
C7 ZR1
cars of all time.
Is one of the coolest cars ever, and I think that car will continue to be worth a ton of money. And towards the end, the 6th-gen Camaros were crazy fast. ZR1 1LE is a stellar car, and I think they look fantastic, and I want to have one. But they're not doing this.
They've been so focused on electric.
I'll tell you what, though.
Why?
I'm very curious, though, if there's a board meeting going on at Chevy being like, so that new GT3R that we're building, what about that?
What are we doing, guys?
What if we throw a plate on one of those?
I got one. Return on investment. Heard of her? Why not make road cars?
So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more of this from car companies.
So this is what I was going to... Kind of the forward-looking part of this is, if this goes well for Ford, I think every brand jumps on it.
Yeah.
All of them. Because here's the thing. Even the Mercedes GT... Black Series. I know.
Here's the thing, though.
As a Porsche guy, it's not the same, though. Like, people that are looking to buy a GT3 RS don't cross-shop with that. Same thing with the Mustang. Nobody that's looking at a GT3 RS is going to be like, I could get the GT... They're all too dissimilar, and so it's... I think the GTD is more of a competitor for the Mercedes, but I don't know why. Like, why does Mercedes not seem like it's in the same... league of...
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I would actually argue that the Mercedes and the Porsche are closer than this is.
How so?
Than this is to those. Because they started with the GT3 race car and then worked back to street car. Whereas the 3RS and the Mercedes They started with street car and worked towards GT3 race car. They went the other way. And to be fair, yes, obviously they used an S650. It's S650 based, but like they moved the transmission, the suspension's inside. It has like we've never seen aero on a Mustang that works. I mean, like there's been a wing on a GT500, but like what? It makes like 100 pounds of downforce. It's there for looks. Let's be honest.
I could just lay on the trunk and make more.
Right. Honestly, like just put a dumbbell in the trunk. It does the same. So I think this is just such a jump for Ford, especially since they looked at the GT3 car and went, what if we made a road version of that? Whereas...
But see, this is why I disagree, is because Porsche and Mercedes have had the GT3 homologated versions for, like, a decade almost.
A long time.
Of these cars.
Yeah, from the SLS forward and from
I don't
the
think
996
it was so
forward.
much Porsche designed up from a street car. I just think it's that... I don't think they designed up from a street car. I just think they came... Well, I don't even know. I was going to say further down from GT3, but it makes more downforce. So, like, I don't...
Right. So, and that's the other cool thing about road cars is you think, like, oh, making a race car for the road is super difficult. But you have to remember, making race cars is difficult. You've got a very strict rule book, so both the GT3 RS and the GTD, will supposedly make more downforce and more horsepower and more active suspension and more fill in the blank.
And I think
than their GT3 counterpart.
I think the only reason the GT3 RS doesn't have a leg up on the GT3R is 1, weight.
Right.
2, the width of the car, because the GT3R can have wider tires up under it. And then I think the GT3R is only making 550.
Yeah, it's not a crazy amount more
so
than the 3RS.
So it's like 40 horsepower, not even 30 horsepower over the 3RS.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe it's not as far from a GT3 car. I think you're wrong. I think it's just as similar to the Mustang. I think the Mercedes is probably the one that's furthest off.
Okay, I would agree in that the Mercedes is the one furthest off. The Mercedes one is the most sane. It's the most road car.
Mercedes is like the GT2 RS in the sense that it's absurd, but not because it's like a race car. It's just
absurd because it makes a bunch of power and has 2 wings on the back and goes stupid fast, right? But like you don't hear people talk about them that much.
No, not at all. And that's what I'm saying is like, why does it seem like Mercedes is never in the conversation? How much does it cost? Is it more expensive?
A Black Series? Ooh, that is a good question.
I bet it's like $500,000, and that's why it's not the same conversation.
Black. It's not that expensive, I don't think. AMG GT Black Series price. There is a Black Series at Mark Motors right now for $390.
So it is more expensive.
So the fact that a GT Black Series costs more than the GTD probably will. They said starting at $300. That means they're all going to be $450,000 probably. But actually, I don't know. There's probably not that many options for them. But considering that it's okay, so
what color do you want?
Right. What do you want your harnesses to be, black or red? Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
So, how much is a new GT3 RS?
I think they're like 3.5.
Okay, GT3 RS price 23. So a base GT3 RS costs $223. So they're all $350.
$223. That's it.
$223,800 is starting, but there is
Ben. I know it's starting, but my point is it's not like you can option up the aero. So you get the aero and the horsepower for $223.
Yep.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna keep it a buck. The GT3 RS being $223.
So it is the cheapest.
When the GTD is $300, and then the Mercedes is $390.
Yeah, which, to be fair, on the inside, as a street car, the Mercedes is the nicest car.
Well, sure, but it's for fat people.
Well, okay, so by the way, I'm looking on DuPont registry right now.
Yeah.
And there is a 2023 GT3 RS in the launch spec. It's silver with the bronze wheels. It has 23 miles on it. Would you like to guess how much they're asking for it? Note 223 base price.
$440.
$570.
Hey, should have bought one new.
What were we thinking, Nick? And then there's another one in Miami that they're asking $625. Oh look, here's a cup car for $300. Just buy a cup car. Don't buy a street car. Just go straight to race car. Yeah. Okay. So like for starters, 3RSs hold their value way too much. Anyway.
That's again why it's a better car.
That's why it's a better car. Okay. What I'm curious about though, so slightly deviating from this, okay, because we're talking about these highly track-oriented versions, right? Because Ford said the Shelby GT350R was the track-oriented Mustang, which for a Mustang, at the time, it was the most track-oriented version.
Because it is still a Mustang.
It is still a Mustang, but it had adaptive dampers on it and carbon fiber wheels. Cool. Great. It is a more track-oriented Mustang. It now looks like a Miata, but the question, though, is they mentioned Porsche GT3RS, GT2RS even, AMG, because Black Series, and they currently hold the record for a front-engined rear-wheel drive car around the Nordschleife.
What is the Black Series time?
Let me see
here. Is it faster than the 3RS?
It is.
Oh, so if they were going to break the front-engine record, it's going to beat the Porsche, if that's their goal.
The Black Series did a 6:43. So they're 6 seconds ahead of a GT3RS.
Okay. But you were saying, I'm sorry, Mercedes Black Series, Porsche.
So Mercedes Black Series, which actually, apparently the Aventador SVJ does a 6:44. So a Black Series is faster than an SVJ, which is banana. Not really when you actually think about it. But they mention Aston Martin, which is weird to me. Aston Martin doesn't make a car like this.
No.
They did a few years ago called the GT12, but that was really just a V12 Vantage with an aero package.
Yes.
It didn't get more power. It didn't make, like, I think it was only making like 500 or 600 pounds of downforce. So I'm wondering if we're going to get,
derailing from this derailing. So considering
we're going off the off rails.
Considering
yes,
Manthey Racing is a Porsche brand.
Yes.
And it is then a factory option.
Yes.
The Manthey Racing GT3 RS of yesteryear.
Yes.
Was 8 seconds faster around the Nordschleife.
Yes.
So, if there were to be a Manthey Racing GT3 RS of the 992, let's be a little bit conservative and say it's 7 seconds faster on the Nordschleife.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized even if it beats the GT3 RS, the Mustang does. It's not the end of hope, because there is a factory stock GT3 RS that could still beat it.
Also, they'll just make a GT2 RS.
Yes, but it's not going to be the same, because the GT2 RS is going to be starting at like $500,000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are GT2 have a GT2 RS hit $1 million? They haven't, have they? No. They're not that crazy.
No.
I'm assuming that a 0 mileage one in like 15 years will, but
I'll look it up while you talk about silly Aston Martins. Sorry, Alonso.
But so sorry, Papa. But my question is, they called out Aston Martin. Aston Martin doesn't make a. Are they up there?
What? So, a 2011 GT2 RS, the 997.
Mm-hmm.
679.
There we go. It's got the badge on it.
Okay, so the newest one, the 18,
right, the 1.2.
Yes, is going for between. Here's one with 1,200 miles for 394. Here's one with 300 miles for 425.
Why are people buying new GT3 RSs? You should just buy a GT2.
Oh Lord. 91 miles. You know what's for sale?
What?
The GT2 RS Manthey Racing 25th Anniversary Club Sport. The one with the totally revised front end.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. So, I'm curious as to if Aston Martin is going to come out with a car to compete with this. No. I don't know that they will, because that's Aston Martin.
Stupid.
Well, but Aston Martin is kind of restructuring what they do right now. They do uber luxury cars and hypercars. I don't think they're gonna do this. Maybe they will though, but the problem is they don't make a Vantage right now, or if they do, it's the old one. Nick, you look confused.
I am.
Okay, why?
The GT2 RS was faster than the GT3 RS?
Yeah. Why would it not be?
Because aero? It didn't make near the downforce of the aero that the 3RS has.
But it's got like 150 horsepower on it. This is why you should be concerned.
So, the Mustang is not going to beat the GT2 RS.
No.
Yeah, 643, get out of town.
Yeah. So this will be super
good.
exciting.
I'm chilling. I really
Nick is
give me a beer.
But in context of GTD versus GT3 RS, this will be super exciting to watch. We probably won't get a Nürburgring time for a while, considering the car only launched, and they said they're going to start delivering cars mid to end of 2024. So it'll be a while. I would expect early next year we might get a lap time out of them. But since the car has been released, we'll probably start to see more spy shots and press photos of the cars out and about.
So Ben, you know what vehicle I would take over both of these?
Which vehicle, sir?
I would take the Roof R Spider.
Okay, so this is a good debate that I was curious which way you were going to go. So Roof released 3 cars at Monterey Car Week this week. Fantastic cars. A car called the CTR3 Evo, which is an evolution of the CTR3, an R Spider, which is a gorgeous 911 that someone took a chainsaw to the roof, and a car called the Tribute. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
I didn't see the third one.
Okay, so they released a green on green 964 today, and it is gorgeous. I don't have the stats on that because I saw that right before we started recording, so I'm very sorry about that. But the CTR3 Evo is a step up.
Yeah,
it's a normal roof looking car.
Yeah.
But the CTR3 Evo is a step up from the 997 GT2 based CTR3. Makes 800 horsepower at 7,100 RPM, and the crazy part, it makes 730 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM.
Is it a flat 6?
It's a twin-turbo flat 6.
How the hell?
Well, that's all cam profile and the turbos that they put on it. But it makes stupid amounts of torque. Everyone's talking about the 800 horsepower. Everyone's overlooking the 730 pound-feet of torque, which is bananas. That's crazy. The entire body is made of Kevlar, and it has inboard pushrod suspension like a Mustang. But the far cooler car that they came out with is called the R Spider, which is actually just a 911 that they cut the roof off of. It's got a 4-liter...
Speaking of a 911 they cut the roof off of, would you take this or the Berg Spider?
Berg Spider? Oh, the
993 based one.
The 993. Oh, this thing, dude. This thing is wicked.
Get out of town.
Oh my, I don't like the back of the Berg Spider. I'm sorry.
So
I've told you this. The front is gorgeous. Fantastic. One of the best. Don't like the back of it.
Weird.
Bit too humpbacky for me. God. Why can't I like a 911? Why can't I like a roof without a roof?
You don't
Why
even
can't I
like
like a...
You just don't even like the automobile.
You didn't even hear my joke. I'm very upset.
That's fine. You don't even like the automobile.
I do like the automobile. I just like Mustangs and roofs without roofs. So, see, he heard it now, and he's disappointed. But it has a 4-liter flat 6, making 503 horsepower, 6-speed manual. And it's also got cool mirrors that are mounted up on the fenders, which is awesome.
Noticed that.
The mirrors?
Yeah,
the mirrors are wicked. They're so cool. So, shout out to Roof for manufacturing some cool cars, because they're not a tuning company. They're a manufacturer. Nick, we have 3 more cars to talk about. So there is the Zinvo Aurora, which we talked about the motor and the concept of a couple weeks ago.
Which I would not give a shit about, so please blow through it.
Well, it's a hypercar, so it's kind of not that interesting. But it is interesting in the fact that it has a 6.6 liter quad turbo hot V V12 making 1250 horsepower at 9,800 RPM, which is a boatload. And then it has a 200 horsepower electric motor in the rear. Now that is for the, there's different names. They're called like the Agile and the Tour. The Agile and the Tour model. The Agile model is the track model. And so it makes a combined 1,450 horsepower, rear-wheel drive only, weighs 2,866 pounds, and it makes 1,950 pounds of downforce at only 150 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 2.5, 0 to 186 miles an hour in 10 seconds, and a 227 mile an hour top speed. The Tour model is faster because it doesn't have all the downforce, and it's got some closed-up bodywork. That same 1,250 horsepower quad turbo V12. It has the same 200 horsepower electric motor in the rear, but it also has two 200 horsepower motors in the front for a total output of 1,850 horsepower. It weighs 3,192 pounds. 0 to 60 is faster at 2.3. 0 to 186 is faster at 9 seconds. 280 mile an hour top speed. I think it looks pretty cool. It's not particularly pretty, but it is interesting. I like that it's a full departure from the previous TSRS model. Nick, Patty, do you want to talk about the Pininfarina B95 or the Lotus Type 66? I'll let you pick.
I want to talk about the fact that the Lotus makes more downforce than it weighs, and it also makes within 100 pounds of downforce than the GT3 RS. You ready for this? I'll take care of the Lotus, Ben. Don't even worry about it. So,
please,
ladies and gentlemen, the Lotus Type 66 is here 53 years after it was conceived. So, the Type 66 was originally a Can-Am car that was a concept in the early 60s. And Colin Chapman decided that they had other commitments, you know, winning Formula One World Championships and stuff like that.
That kind of stuff.
So the car was actually never built in the 60s. It was all just drawings and sketches. And so apparently Clive Chapman, Colin Chapman's son, actually gave these designs to Lotus in the last few years. And then that's when they started the project. So it's in a gold leaf livery. And apparently it had more than 1,000 hours of computational fluid dynamics modeling. So
that's cool.
The peak downforce figure is 1,764 pounds at 150 miles an hour.
Jesus.
And it's getting a pushrod V8. So it's going to have 819 horsepower.
Jesus Christ.
8,800 RPM.
Jesus
and
Christ.
550 pound-feet of torque at 7,400 RPM.
Brother.
Central carbon fiber tub, aluminum body panels, electric power steering, sequential transmission, anti-stall system, ABS. During simulator testing, it's as fast and faster around certain tracks than current GT3 class cars.
That's terrifying.
And it's a Can-Am car.
This is so cool. For starters, it's a gorgeous car.
Did you see the video of it starting up and idling?
I did. I watched the video about 1,000 times. It sounds fantastic. They haven't given specs on the engine as far as displacement and where it came from. I'm going to assume it was...
They said it matches the period correct motors.
That's pretty cool.
Considering, for the listeners, that the period correct motors were typically Chevy 427s, it's going to be a large displacement, big block pushrod V8.
Yep, which is super cool. It's got 8-stack injection on it, which is rad. But I do like that they took the concept of a Can-Am car, right? This is similar to the recent, what was this? The Nichols.
But this
M1.
is better.
Similar to that, but this is way cooler.
This is they didn't try to modernize it. Other than the Aero, but it's still got like the 14-inch wheels, and it's got the high sidewall.
Right. So because this is just a race car, right? This isn't a road car. So the Nichols M1A is a Can-Am inspired road car. This is a Can-Am car that they put modern technology into. So it's still an old school V8, but it's got a sequential, which they wouldn't have had in period, electric power steering, which they wouldn't have had, ABS, which they wouldn't have had.
You know what the other
and
thing
then also they used CFD technology, which is fantastic because that means they can make sure it's not going to do backflips at 200 miles an hour.
The other leg up on the Nichols that this car has, it's actually made by the manufacturer, which is so cool, and I don't think people understand. If Ben built in his backyard 2 spec a McLaren M8D, and put a Chevy 427 in it, it would be badass, but it would not even be nearly as special as an actual McLaren.
Right.
The fact that Lotus is actually building this is so valuable to the resale, to the history, and to, granted, Lotus is not the end-all be-all for quality, but it's better than some British bloke in the back of his garage with a Guinness.
Right. It's not a kit car. This is a production limited run race car. They're only making 10, correct?
Yes, and they start
is what I saw.
Over $1 million. They didn't say how far over, but a minimum of $1 million.
That's a pretty big ceiling. So I think the car's gorgeous. There will be an abundance of pictures. There will in fact be all the pictures. Because it looks like a Can-Am car, and it's period correct, and it's awesome. And even, like, it's got analog gauges in it, but they're probably all electronic. And the shifter in it has a wood grain shift knob, but it's a sequential shifter, which is so sick. Like it's just stuff like that. It looks period correct. If you saw a picture of this, you would think it's the 1970s, but it is in fact a brand new car. Yes.
We're at 55 minutes and we have another car to talk about, and then there's a few auction things I want to talk about. So can you please blow through the Pininfarina B95, please?
I can blow through the Pininfarina B95, which is another limited edition car, only making 10, starting at $4.8 million.
It's sexy, though.
It's fantastic. So they're only making 10, 0 to 60 in sub 2 seconds, top speed of 186, which is a bit slow, but it doesn't have a windshield, so we'll allow it. It's got a 120 kilowatt hour battery because it is electric, as the all Pininfarina models are right now. Like the other Pininfarina models, I'm assuming underneath this is just a Rimac Navara, because that's what the other Pininfarina is it's essentially a Navara. So I'm assuming that's what this is, except this is a cool 60s looking Barchetta, no roof, speedster, no windshield, plaid seats, goodness, awesomeness. There will be pictures.
Fantastic.
I don't like the dash because it's all screens, but it's electric. So what do you expect, Nick Patty?
So there's one car I want to talk about.
Please.
That's coming up for auction.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben, do you have any guesses?
Oh, the Batmobile.
No.
Was I close?
Wait, did it just sell? Hold on.
What am I looking for here?
No, hold on. I'm not going to tell you anything. Okay.
Holding one.
So, this car that's coming up for auction is a Ferrari 250 GTO.
Okay.
However, it's not just any GTO, because the chassis is 3765, and this car was the only Series 1 GTO. And if you're like, Series 1, huh? It is the only, in the history of the brand, factory raced 250 GTO from Scuderia Ferrari. The pre-auction estimate is over $60 million, and it would break the all-time Ferrari sale record. So here's another few interesting things about this. It's also a 330 LM. So here is the interesting part. It's one of only 2 original Ferraris fitted with 250s. One of only 2 original 250s fitted with the 4-liter 330 LM engine.
Okay.
It had a second overall finish at the Nürburgring 1,000 kilometer in 62. It was driven by Mike Parks and Lorenzo Bandini in this 1962 24 Hours of Le Mans. In private ownership, it was the runner-up in the Sicilian Hill Climb in 1965. It's been owned by the current owner for 38 years.
Oh my gosh. So
and
he bought it for $50.
It has an additional 3-liter V12 Colombo in addition to the 4-liter 330 LM motor. It was the winner of the FCA Platinum Award and the Coppa Bella Macchina at the Cavallino Classic. Second in the GTO class at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance among 23 GTOs. Best of show at the Amelia Island Concours and the Blue Ribbon winners at the Meadowbrook Concours d'Elegance. So there's only 2 Ferrari GTOs that have sold at public auction in the past 10 years.
Okay.
They've sold as the 2 most expensive Ferraris in the history of the brand. So, this car that's coming up for auction, the most recent 250 GTO, by the way, sold for $48.4 million. Privately, GTOs had been rumored to have sold for $70 million or more.
Yeah.
But this one is arguably the most rare, valuable, and provenance. Other than a Le Mans winning 250 GTO, this is the creme de la creme. So,
right.
I am shook to know what this could potentially go for, and it's selling at Sotheby's, New York.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think that there are people out there who, you know, have not only enough money to do that, but, you know, like, that's, you know, if you're spending $60 million on a 250 GTO, which, by the way, it'll go for way more than that. It's, you know, it's quite possible this could be a 9-figure car.
Let's just put this in comparison. Like, Steve McQueen's number 20 917 from John Wire that Jerry Seinfeld owns, Jerry Seinfeld bought, if I remember this correctly, for like $7 million.
Yeah.
I would take I would take 7 917s over one 250 GTO. I don't care who owned it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Ferrari is one of those brands that there's just so much provenance around that badge.
And did you see the Mondial that was in that collection that was literally the twisted frame and all rusted and everything, sold for like $14 million?
That's pretty cool though. Like okay, it's really cool.
But people paid more than Le Mans winning Porsches for it.
Yeah, but you have to remember, billionaires are bored and they have living rooms that they need to furnish, okay? So what are you going to do other than put a charred Ferrari in the middle of it? That's all you can do.
It's like bacon when it's gone too long and it's just brittle. Yeah. You're like,
a well done Ferrari, you know? So I'm sorry, by the way, audience. I'm still looking at pictures of the Type 66. But I mean, Ferrari is just one of those brands. You know, I don't think there is any. Obviously, there's the Mercedes that sold last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, for like $148 million or something. You know, and I think as far as public auctions go, I don't think anything will ever touch Ferraris. I don't get why. There's just no other brand that has enough provenance to sell for that much money. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, the only company that I could think of that would be close is Porsche. But, you know,
not
like,
even close.
A crazy, like, a stupid, insane expensive Porsche is not $10 million. It's nuts. It's crazy.
They've sold Porsches for over $10 million.
Have they? Like, Le Mans winning 917s and stuff?
No, it was... Okay,
or, like, really early stuff.
So here's a list. From Top Speed, and this was published in May.
Okay.
The most expensive... Oh, God, it's doing it in ascending order. Hold on, let me scroll to the bottom. Okay. The most expensive... Oh, this one's the one that just sold. Was the number 22 Moby Dick 1970 Porsche 917. That sold for $14 million. Second most was an 82 956. And it sold for $10.1 million. And then it's a 550 Spider for $6 million. The 959 Paris Dakar car for $6 million.
That's cool.
George Fulmer's 917-10 Can-Am car that won the championship for $5.8.
That's cool.
The Strasza version GT1 for $5.6. The Penske RS Spider 5.6, RS60 Porsche for 5.4. No, I'm going to go through the list. Another 550 for 5.3, another 550 for 5.1, a 907 for 4.8 million.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, this is all public auctions. I'm assuming that there are cars that have sold. There are multiple cars that have sold for 9 figures. I'm assuming there has to have been.
Nine figures.
There's
You know
cars.
how much money that is?
Yes.
Nine figures is over $1 billion.
I thinking of that right?
Six figures.
Sorry.
Is
Over 7 figures. Sorry, is what I meant to say. Not 9 figures. I was a bit ahead of myself.
It's like a few $1 trillion, no big deal.
Yeah, no, but I'm assuming that there are several cars that have sold for over $100 million, and we just don't know about it, and that's just because they're trading hands privately, kind of sort of thing. And like there was the Rothmans car that was at RM Sotheby's at Le Mans. That was a private auction. No one knows how much that sold for.
Oh, interesting.
So, which I was kind of bummed about because, like, it was cool because you could go back and actually look. They had sale prices, like, on pieces of papers on all the cars afterwards, except for that Porsche. So, hi, dogs. So, I don't know. It'll be super interesting to see how much that 250 sells for. I think it'll for sure be the most expensive 250 G2 ever sold.
I think it's going to get between 90 and 110 million. I don't think it's going to go more than that.
Yeah, I would say that sounds about right for that car. As if $90 million sounds right for any car. But I think that is going to do it from us here at episode 67. Bit of a longer episode, but we did spend 45 minutes talking about a Mustang and a Volkswagen Beetle. So it was quite extensive. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, make sure you hit the follow or the subscribe button. Leave a rating and review if you can. It helps us out a ton. Like Nick said at the top of the show, go find us on social media at The Clutch Dump. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and share the video. Comment down below what you think is going to be faster, that GTD or that GT3 RS, because we are very excited to see how that plays out. But that is going to do it from us here at episode 67. From The Clutch Dump, we will see you next time.